Hey everybody, it's Roy from ANSgear. We're going to take a look at some fill stations again. These are just your basic CO2 fill stations, a standard version and a professional version. Their main differences between the two is basically this one comes with an extra valve, this one does not. So when you're setting up and you're going to do your fills, obviously the first thing you want to make sure you have is your large bulk fill tank needs to be a siphon CO2 version. So it needs to be siphoning out the liquid CO2 from the bulk tank and putting it into the fill tank. Make sure you are ordering one or you have one of those, otherwise you won't get anything but gas into your tank, which is not going to help you. You need to get the liquid CO2 from the bulk tank into your empty or your fill tank. So this is how this setup works. On the basic version that we have right here, this end is going to screw onto the bulk tank, what you're filling from. This end screws onto what you're filling into, or your empty tank. So you'll screw this on, make sure that your little washer goes in between to make a good seal. You'll screw this on, make sure it's tight, and then take your empty tank, put it on here, and then depress the pin on the empty tank so that when you do fill, the liquid coming through can go into the empty tank. Before you start filling, obviously you want to make sure that your tank is chilled or cold. A warm or air temperature CO2 tank will not accept liquid CO2, and therefore you won't get an appropriate fill, or you'll get a light fill, and you won't get all the shots that you possibly could get. So make sure your tank is cold and chilled before you put it on and try to fill it. So once you're ready to fill, you've got your tank on, the valve is open, you've got this connected to your large tank. This one right here, you're going to make sure is in the off position. And you can see right here it says on off, so you'll turn it to the off position. That basically is going to create a blockage or a barrier right here so that you don't get air coming out the end here. Once this is in the off position, you would open up the large fill tank, the liquid CO2 would come through and fill up your bottle. When you're done and you filled it completely, you would back this up. That's going to keep any extra CO2 from going in. You would turn off your large bulk tank, and then the last step would be to bleed your line out. You don't want to try to disconnect the bottle while this is under pressure. You'll ruin your O-rings and you could potentially cause some problems. It's a safety factor, so just bleed it off. So you've opened this up, you have pressure in your line, you turn this here, all the pressure that's in your line comes out the bottom of your bleed hole. Now, if you don't want this blowing off right here, it's very loud, you could put a hose on here and run it outside or do something, whatever you wanted to keep the noise away from you, or just blow it right off the bottom. It's up to you. Once you're done, disconnect your tank, and then you can move on to your next tank. Make sure you've got your bleed hole closed and repeat the process over and over. Difference between this one and the Deluxe version, the end result is the same right here, but if you look at the top section, you've got two different valves right here. So instead of having to open and close your fill tank every single time, or your bulk tank, with this extra valve in here and the off position like this, you can leave your fill tank on constantly. You can just open the valve on it and the pressure will come in, but it will stop here. So you do the same setup as you did before, check your bleed valve, everything you need to do, and when you're ready to fill, you just open, and when you're done, you close. Never having to change anything with the fill side or the bulk side of the tank. Makes it a little bit easier to deal with, makes it easier and actually quicker rather than having to unscrew a large valve on top of your fill tank. But other than that, the two remote setups are the same. Definitely easier to use on this one. This one takes a little bit more turning of valves, but it will get you the same end result. So if you're looking for some fill stations, check out the standard fill station or the professional fill station, both available on the website. Order yours now at ANSgear.com.